Hello, all you loyal viewers. This is Radi Nabulsi, and you are watching UGA Sports Live with head coach Jim Donnan, the former Georgia Bulldogs head coach, who is here to answer your questions and to talk to us about Georgia football. We're also joined by Dayne Young, who basically pushes a bunch of buttons and then tries to make it look good, which is damn near impossible. But he's got help from Coach Donnan, and that's who you're here to see. And we always appreciate Coach Donnan taking time once a week to sit down with us. It really does mean a lot to us. We don't tell him that. We don't want him to feel, any warm and fuzzies towards us. We feed him now and then. That's all he gets out of the show. But we do appreciate that. So anyway, a quick shout out to our sponsors. I know we mentioned them later on the show, but I do want to mention them at the beginning here because they also mean a lot to us. Athens Ford, Your Pie, Academia Brewing Company, Dead Soxy, Prime Shrimp, and My Perfect Franchise. I have to say their names at an additional time because I sent them all bills recently. So I got to make sure that we get them in there as much as possible. Anyway, Dave, what do you want to talk about this week?
Well, the questions that we get, Coach, tend to be this time of year just about spring practice and what everyone's kind of viewing questions that have to be answered. So I figure rather than cram that all into one show, we're going to spread it out here over the next few weeks. And one of the questions that I've seen a lot is about the running back position. So we'll go position by position over the next few weeks. And we may forget some because, we're all aging and don't have good memories. And I have 2 kids and won't remember to do it like a good producer should. But I wanted to start with running backs this week, just what Georgia has on the roster, what Del McGee's going to be looking for those guys as they go into spring camp. So let's just go person by person here. And I think that we all believe the most carries, if healthy, will go to Kendall Milton.
Yeah, this should be a breakout year for Kendall. I don't think that he's actually injury prone. He just had some injuries that could occur to anybody, but it just, at the wrong time. But he's really working hard in the weight room. He's done a good job when he had a chance last year, minimal carries, but he's really good at catching the ball, and he's a good pass pro guy. I mean, he's got the potential to be a 1,000-yard back. I mean, he can do that because he can break away and he can also pound it in there. But, we're certainly going to continue the mode of alternating backs and keeping a lot of fresh bodies in there. But I think he's the lead guy for sure.
All right, so we know what he does running. I want to ask pass protection, catching the ball in the backfield.
Yeah, I mentioned both of those. Were you listening?
I'm producing on the fly too, but I want to be sure we hit home on those.
Okay, but I did. I just wanted to. I did say he is a very good pass protector, and he's good at coming out of the backfield. He hasn't shown a lot of. It just hadn't got the chances that we had with Kenny Mack, but I've seen him in practice. He runs that Memphis drill, which they do. Named it after Dan Lanning coming from Memphis, where the back runs against the linebacker and breaks inside or out, or a linebacker blitzes. And it gives the linebackers a good chance to go full speed and cover full speed. Do the same thing with the tight ends. But he's a good player and good morale guy, too. He's a great team guy. I look for a lot of leadership out of Kendall this year.
I liked when he got in last, he was kind of coming back from the injury. And, remember, a lot of guys got banged up, especially the running back. Georgia's seen that a lot. There was the Kenny McIntosh thigh bruise that kept him out of certain games. So it's a punishing position. But I was like, when they were working him back in after some of his stuff, he just scored. Kendall Milton gets into the end zone. I love that just kind of dogged, determined, nose for the end zone, not trying to dance around, not trying to get an angle, not trying to be cute, just running people the hell over. And I'm like, man, if this guy gets 12, 15 games of this, I'm with Coach. That's a 1,000-yard rusher, even with the way Georgia spreads the ball around. I mean, you've got guys that can get to that 800 level, 800 yards or so each year. But I think Kendall, and he can break them off too. And just
I saw a stat where Kenny Mack was one of 3 backs in the last 15 years in the SEC to get 800 yards rushing and 500 yards receiving. So that in itself shows you what kind of player he is. But we spread the receivers out, we spread the backs out, but I think we'll be explosive offense again. Anytime you got a guy like Bowers that they got to defend, and I saw Ladd McConkey the other day. He was all proud of the fact that he's bulked up a little bit in the weight room, and he looks good now. I mean,
135 pounds now.
He weighs about 185 now, probably, and he's big for his frame, and I think he's fired up about coming back and being the guy, and hopefully his knees healed up. He played with a lot of problems with that, but both those guys present a big problem for any team defending us. So, but the backs will help out there, and I think we'll probably under Bobo. I don't know that we will have quite as many different running plays as we did with Coach Munkin. He had a tendency to use 5 or 6 different ways to run one play. I think maybe we might not see quite as many variations of the ones, but the same blocking schemes for sure.
I presumed that Kendall Milton would be the first running back off the bus. He had 85 carries last year, but Dayne Edwards had 140. So, Coach, Dayne Edwards.
Yeah, I mean, he took advantage of his opportunity. He was ready. When Kenny Mack was down, and he came in there and did what he needed to. He's really perfect for his own blocking scheme because he gets behind those big guys up front, and it's hard to see him. And he's got that darting quickness that helps you, and he's got some really physical toughness to go with that. He's proven, like a lot of these smaller backs throughout college and NFL, that you can play at that size if you got that kind of quickness. And he's got good football acumen. He knows where to read the blocks. He really has the right feel for the run game. I think that's something that sometimes you just can't teach. We'll be watching it on the watch along show and say, hey, why didn't you bounce outside, or why did you cut back? And it's easy for us to see, but when you're out there going 100 miles an hour, he's got that kind of visual ability, and he's got a niche here. I mean, he was the last guy taken there several years ago, and he waited. He wanted to come to Georgia, kind of like what we've seen from several players here. But I like his chances of having a really solid year, and he can catch the ball extremely well too.
Let's go over to Branson Robinson in his second season.
Well, Branson, every time he had a chance, he came in there and just Burma road at people, and he showed. Now that I've watched some of the reruns of games, he showed some bursts too. Where he would hit the gash and break it outside. Powerful guy. He's one of the best all-time guys we've ever had in the weight room. He came in with that weightlifting championship in Mississippi. I mean, he's just a bulky, powerful guy, but catches the ball pretty well. He's learning the nuances of protection and all. It was a great year for him to get his feet wet where he didn't have to be the man. He had 3 guys playing ahead of him, and he got just enough good playing time. And you saw him in the garbage time there against TCU. They probably say, what the heck's going on? I thought this was his second team. He comes in there and I think scores 2 touchdowns. So he's a stud.
I like the fact that they asked him to stop lifting as much weight. They said, you need to. How many guys have you had to tell? Yeah, you're lifting too much, buddy. That's
yeah. You're looking for a little more flexibility there, and if he was an old lineman, maybe, but he's got a lot of natural strength to go with his powerful. I mean, you look at the guy, and it's just like Milton. You think Milton weighs about 195, and he's 225, 230. This guy, same way. And then I'm going to trans into this new guy we got coming in. He's just an absolute beast-looking guy, 240. He came in a little heavy, but he's gotten down. And Robinson, the kid from the West Coast, what's his full name there, Dane?
Roderick Robertson.
Roderick. Here's a guy that Coach McGee knew he wanted. He really came in and worked him without a lot of fanfare. He was committed to UCLA, but he's got some background over this way. His family has some military background and knows a lot of people in Georgia. So we worked that perfectly as usual. Dale works every angle. This guy here, when you talk about players and everything and try to get something out of, somebody just asking how these freshmen look, one of the first guys they say after Hall. I mean, Hall's the same way as what you heard about when Carter came in here. I mean, Hall is a man with a capital M, a capital A, with a capital N. Man. And, I mean, he's scary looking. You walk by, he's nice, smiling all, but you walk by him, you just say, hey, I'm not going to bump into you, sir. I'm not going
to. Take the long way around.
I mean, he looks on the hoof every bit, probably taller than Carter, but I don't know that he's quite as explosive, but very intelligent too. They're saying that he really has fit in, knows what to do. So we'll talk about those guys later, but those are two, along with Freeling, that you hear a lot about, that just get your mouth watering a little bit. And then, of course, a couple of those defensive backs too. But I think our running back group's going to be outstanding. If you look over the years, Mike Bobo offense, wherever it's been, he's had good backs. I mean, even in South Carolina, that Harris kid was right among the leaders in the SEC without even much of an offensive line. And then Tank Bixby tore it up over there at Auburn, in some games. Not others he didn't, but, he really did a good job against Alabama. So, but you look back at Gurley and Chubb and Marshall and, no Sean Marino. I mean, he's recruited a lot of good backs, and he knows how to use them.
To that point, though, in spring practice, how does Mike Bobo, now being offensive coordinator, change what Georgia does in spring ball? What does Dell McGee do differently now that Bobo's kind of calling the plays on that? Like, do we expect this season that Georgia may rotate running backs a little bit less? Or, like, how are those decisions made at this point?
Yeah, that's made by Kirby. He's the ultimate processor of that. They go over that every Saturday. What if we're not moving the ball, what are we going to do? If they're doing this, or are we going to go more nickel? I mean, every situation, every head coach goes over that, but to the nth degree, because you can't make those decisions during the game. Hey, you can't be asking coach, can I put him in? Hey, I know I heard Kirby say to Trey Scott there at the end of the year, said, hey, we need to not worry too much about alternating Carter. We're not going to have him much longer. We're going to be watching him on Sunday. So, which is that was a good Travis Scott, Trey Scott. I mean, he understood that too, but I mean, that's a good point by Kirby. I mean, you don't need to rest him up. So I think that's to be determined, really. I mean, based on, are we going to be more which one of these guys is going to be the quarterback? Is it going to be the more mobile guy? Is it going to be more the drop back guy? Is it going to be the one that –
I didn't think about that.
A lot of that system oriented. The more zone reads and RPOs you run, the more the back's going to get the ball. More drop back pass and screens and stuff like that. The more they're going to pass protect and do other things.
Well, that answered the question I was about to ask you. Is I kind of touched on it last week when we were talking about Monken versus Bobo. It was Monken came out and said, I like to throw the ball. That's what I'm looking to do. And I was asking, what is Mike Bobo's? I mean, Monken likes to throw it. Does Bobo like to run it? And there's always that. There was that meme for years: run the damn ball, Bobo. But he did. He ran it a lot. And so I'm thinking, is he more of a 3 yards cloud of dust guy? I think
he's.
But if it depends on the QB,
he's involved like everybody. I mean, base it on the personnel you got.
Right.
Be hard not to throw the ball coming off the bus when you got Bowers. I mean, you got to use him. And it's the intrigue that happens with every team going into spring practice. You're going to have to get your best players to learn your system or adapt your system to your best players. So that's what's going to happen. I think the thing that'll happen for sure, I would believe, is that terminology, all that stuff will stay the same. Mike's learned, he calls plays maybe different than what Monken did as far as what you call them, but a lot of the same recipes and things that you use for these plays. So,
how's the offensive line look, though? I mean, won't that have a lot to do with how successful these backs are?
Oh yeah, that's always it. You got to have we talked about it over the years here. We had backs that had to run a lot behind the line and make people miss them before they got to the line of scrimmage. I don't see that happening with this line. I see some road graders up there. I see some smart players. I mean, a lot of you look at your center and your both guards got a lot of experience, and depending on what happens with Truss, if he plays guard or tackle. But I just feel like, without going out on a big limb and trying to fall off of it, I just feel like, from my standpoint, that we'll have, particularly after fall, because spring you only got about 13 practices. You got the G-Day game. You got 2 practices where you're out there without, full pads, and you can only scrimmage 3 times. So where we'll really know what we're all about is about halfway through fall camp. But the overriding factor that we have, that every one of these both of these national championship teams have had, is the competition against each other in practice parallels or even supersedes anybody you play against in the game. So self-survival out there with some of these drills now. I mean, that old line trying to block Michael Williams and some of those guys, and
Air Alexander, yeah.
Same thing with DBs covering some of these receivers and vice versa. So it's one of the things that's very comforting as a coach when you know that your practices are competitive. So you guys have to get better, or they're going to get put by the wayside there. So that's where Kirby's recruiting and development's really taken off like a rocket.
Yeah, I go back. The group we're talking about, the running backs, you can't coach. You could come in as a Kendall Milton, a 5-star running back, or you could come in any of these guys that are highly rated. And here's Dayne Edwards, the guy they took in the last minute, who's, like you said, 140 carries, Dayne, who gets yards, who scores touchdowns. Nobody gets to coast in Georgia practice. You can't come in with a superstar, label or, big chip on your shoulder because of how highly you were ranked. And the number one thing we heard about, we got Marlon in the comments saying there, Michael Williams is a stud. Yeah, he is. But what did we hear about Michael Williams was the fact that he showed up in the spring and summer and was working his tail off. I mean, that was a guy who came in as a 5-star, and everyone had high expectations for him. So
let me just say one thing about Michael Williams.
Cash Jones pushing you. Hell, those guys can play.
When they have that pro day and those on I think March 19th or something, when our kids they go to the combine week after next, and then they have their pro day and the scouts walk by the players and all. If they're over there working out, they're going to look over at Michael Williams. Okay, when are you going to run? When are you going to jump? Oh, I'm just a sophomore. I mean, he looks the part. And the final part of the running back that we don't want to forget is Cash Jones, Mr. Everything on special teams. We're going to get a big plus with our team next year, having Dan Jackson back at safety and special teams, who hurt his leg, and then Cash Jones, another just flat out phenom on special teams. The guy can run, he can hit, he loves it, and I'm sure he's getting NIL to help his scholarship, but I could see him putting Cash Jones on scholarship. He can play for anybody.
Yeah.
Well, and as we put a bow on this running backs conversation, we must mention that Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers combined to have 16 carries for 243 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, both those guys are just take the pressure off your inside running game with the threat of the reverse, with the jet sweep. One of the best calls in the history of Georgia football annals was the reverse we ran to McConkey against Mississippi State when everybody was low about the punt return at the end of the half. And, all the momentum was with Mississippi State. A tremendously well-designed play, formation into the boundary, pulled Big O Darnell Washington to the field to block the support, and ran into the boundary and flipped it to McConkey, and he took it to the house. I mean, that was a game changer as far as just taking the air out of that Mississippi State Bulldog team. It was just a brilliantly conceived play and a good deception. So, and then think about Ladd that helps your plays like this. he's the guy that can stop and start so quickly returning punts because you got to make that first guy miss you. If the punt's deep enough, you can return it. And that's what he can add to the running game, whether it's a quick screen or whether it's a reverse, is that first guy miss type mentality. And then he's got that burst after that. You look at what he can do. And, of course, Bowers, he's going 100 miles an hour when he takes his first step. So I think that's a good point you made there, General Manager. Good point.
Hey, GM, you left off the QB runs.
Well, we don't know who that's going to be.
I'm just saying. Does that factor into it? Because
we got two guys. I mean, Beck is fairly mobile, but certainly you look at the high school runs of Gunnar Stockton and Brock Vandergriff. I mean, they are spread quarterbacks that can maybe not quite as quick as Stetson, but they can definitely run the zone read as among better than most quarterbacks in college.
Well, to your point, though, Roddy, two players led Georgia with 10 rushing touchdowns last year. Kenny McIntosh and Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's if you give those options to Mike Bobo, you give him that stable of tailbacks, and then the guys on the edge who can take it in, you give him that great offensive line, and then you give him a quarterback like Gunnar, who just he wasn't fast, but he made people miss a lot. Every time I went up to Raven, he'd leave some guy just holding his shoes, because he juked him out of him.
Gunnar will challenge it, man. He'll run out there and run over you. I mean,
I'm just saying he cut and juked out guys, but then I've coached against Brock Vandergriff and watched him run my players over. So, yeah, they're both head down, going to get those yards. You better teach them to slide, but they don't want to. They want to kill somebody. So that's going to be Mike Bobo's got some pretty good tools for the run game coming up.
Yeah, I would say that athletically, Brock Vandergriff's high school background is, you watch him in practice. I mean, he's got a good skill level. He's among the better athletes on our team.
Yeah, he is. So, I mean, we covered him there, and then we covered him in basketball. Then we'd go to the state track meets there, and there he is in the 100. He's a giant compared to some of these little sprinter guys out there. So he's going to be fun to watch, and all of them will be. All right. Speaking of going fast, I want to mention our friends at Athens Ford, because if you want something that goes fast and is durable and can take something out, hit up our friends at Athens Ford. They got 335 vehicles available on the lot as we speak. I guarantee you they will have more this afternoon. That's after they've sold more than the morning. Those guys go through them quickly. The inventory over there is constantly changing. It changes multiple times a day. So you need to go to their website, athensford.com. Remember, it's Athens Ford. There's a name similar to that, but it's Athens. Where's your team located? They're located in Athens. Go to Athens Ford. This is year 11 for them. They've won a ton of awards. Their ratings through people who buy cars, they ask, you can go rate your dealer. Their ratings are off the charts because they do such a good job. So check out our friends at Athens Ford. If you just want to see what they have in stock, just click on it once in the morning, once in the afternoon. I guarantee you the inventory is probably changed because they sell a lot of vehicles and they get a lot of them in. They also take good care of you when you come in with a trade. Also want to mention to our friends at My Perfect Franchise. We had a gentleman hit us up in Florida last week saying, hey, what's the name of that place again? Because I'm thinking of doing it and having a change in my career. That's the thing. If you want to be your own boss, you want to have a different source of income, you want to diversify, you want to be the person signing the front of the checks, paying other people, being the boss, get out of the corporate rat race. Hit up Andy Ludecky, hit up Brian Beachy, go to My Perfect Franchise.
Brandon Beachy. You always go Brian sometimes. It's Brandon. He was a Braves really good pitcher.
Yeah, and he's actually going to come on UGASports and answer a bunch of Braves questions, especially with pitchers and catchers reporting. So we can get him to tell us what that's like. But he'll also tell you how to start a new life, a new career. So reach out to myperfectfranchise.net. It is free to you. It doesn't cost you anything. There's not hidden fees behind it. You don't pay them. They get paid by the franchise people, and he's going to be sure that you are successful because when Andy's he's on our site, he's on a ton of other sites. He's done this throughout the Rivals Network. He has a ton of success stories. So trust me, he can take care of you.
Before we get to go ahead.
I want to just point out one thing because I will forget it. But there was something that came out by Todd McShay that there were some issues with Carter's character, and there's always going to be kind of rumor stuff, but I read this week in the another site there, the Bruce Feldman. I read him, and he was talking about that we have a walk-on defensive lineman, and of course our kids can eat over there at the restaurant 2 times a day, even if you're not on scholarship, but you can't eat all 3 meals. It's just the way it's regulated with the rules. But Carter found out that this one kid that was going out there and practicing with us in the D line wasn't able to eat over there. And he set it up and paid for the kid to eat the whole semester.
What?
Now, I think that's pretty slick myself.
That sounds like character issues to me, Coach.
I mean, he said, if you're going to practice with us and come in our meeting room, you deserve to eat over here with us. And, the kid, that to me is very unselfish and what it's all about being on a team. So I'm sure most people have heard about that. But if you hadn't, I wanted you to know about it because that was awesome. And we also read about Brock Bauer saying he wasn't taking any of the collective that everybody gets from UGA. He's got his own deals, and he wanted it to be shared with the other players and not take part of it. So I think that's great. I mean, anytime you can hear about stuff like that, it shows you the kind of kids we got on our team.
Yeah, there was that, and I feel horrible because I can't remember the 4 guys. Stetson Bennett was one of them. They created the Damn Good Dog Fund.
John Fitzpatrick, John Staten was on that. There was one more I'm forgetting. But, yeah, it was that group.
Maybe the kid that went to SMU.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm gonna feel bad. But anyway, while Dave's looking that up, I mentioned the fact that those guys basically
Owen
took their
Condon.
NIL money.
Owen Condon.
There you go. Those guys basically took their set up a system to turn their NIL money into a charity. So I thought that was quite impressive. But again, those stories don't make every news outlet. But a guy saying that unsubstantiated rumor about Jalen Carter might have something, or that gets on every news outlet. And hey, I'm in the business. Trust me, I understand how it works. If I write a good story about Jalen Carter, no one clicks on it. If I write something he may have an issue, we'll get 100,000 clicks. This is why I love the folks at UGASports that support us, because we don't get paid per click. So we don't have to write that stuff to stay in business.
We get paid?
At a certain level. Level. Not the technical interns. They get nothing.
Well, before we get to the questions that fans have for us, I have questions for you guys, because in my alternate reality, I would be a game show host. And so let's have a game show. We're going to call this Know Your Dogs. And there's even some background music I can add to this as a producer. That's really loud.
Is it Neo?
Okay, this is called Know Your Dog. Each of you gets 3 questions about the University of Georgia. We're going to start with the head coach, Jim Donnan. We're going to find out who knows more about Georgia. Coach, who did Georgia defeat in the national championship game in January?
In football?
Yes, in football.
TCU Horned Frogs.
Okay, 1 for 1. Ding.
Easy.
Well, we're easing in, Roddy.
My next question don't make it quite as hard, will you?
All right. Roddy, your first question. Which Georgia player led the 2022 team in yards per rush?
Yards per rush. Let me go with Kenny McIntosh.
0 for 1. It's Cash Jones. 22 yards per rush. He had 2 carries for 44 yards.
Gotta have a minimum.
I did not say a minimum.
That is true. You did not say that. All right, I got me.
Question 2 for the head coach, Jim Donnan. Which former Georgia quarterback recently received a promotion and is now the team's offensive coordinator for a second time?
Mike Bobo.
All right, 2 for 2, Coach Donnan. All right, Roddy, you have some work to do here. Sanford Stadium is named after the late Stedman Sanford. Prior to joining the university as an English literature instructor, Sanford was a principal of a high school. Which high school in Georgia was he a principal at?
Athens High School.
No. No. You got to go a little bit further to our west. Marietta High School for
Who the hell knows
Dr.
that?
Sanford. Coach knew it, obviously. He would have gotten it if I would have thrown it his way.
He's like, well, obviously, yeah.
All right, Coach is 2 for 2. Roddy 0 for 2. So this is 3 questions each. So we'll see how this wraps up here. Maybe you can make it respectable at the end. We don't want a blowout. Coach, your final question. This former Georgia head coach had previous coaching stops as the head coach at Marshall and an assistant at Oklahoma and Missouri. Name this coach.
Jim Donnan to the rescue. Jim Donnan to the rescue. Go, Jim Donnan, go.
3 for 3, Coach Donnan, 100%. All right, Roddy, let's just see if you can get on the board here. Staying on that same theme, who was the head coach at Florida State University when Jim Donnan was an assistant there?
Ooh, Dooley.
Larry
Cutting
Jones.
the music.
Larry Jones.
Larry Jones.
How
And
am I supposed to know that? You guessed him his own name.
he got it right. This was completely random, the question.
Oh, I see.
Completely random generator.
See what
Larry
happens when you
Jones.
don't pay him?
Larry Jones was only the head coach at Florida State for 3 years. And if I saw this right, Coach, you were not there in his final season. And it was a good thing because he went 0-11.
I was there. We lost every game. We had some close ones, but it was a bad year. And then Coach Bowden came in. Daryl Moodger came in for a couple of years, and then Coach Bowden came in, and rest is history. But it was I can always say that I came close to winning every game, like 4 times. I lost only one, but that was the only time I lost every one of them.
Well, you won every one of them in this round. You went 3 for 3, and know your dogs. Roddy currently 0 for 3. Maybe we'll try again another week and see if Roddy can make it respectable.
I think I'm gonna have internet issues that week.
All right,
I can kind of feel them coming on.
That's
try, Roddy.
Yeah, good effort. Good effort. You brought your best, and it just wasn't good enough this time around. You know, you go look at the film and see what we can do better.
Hey, guys, before we go on, we've got a couple questions from Curtis Maximus 51. Any updates on Andrew Paul and Cody Tony Wilson? Didn't hear anything about Andrew Paul. We left him off the list. We need to touch on him real quick before we advance.
Yeah, we should have put Andrew Paul on. I forgot about him. You know, he's probably going to come out there in the spring and do some light work. Nothing team wise because he's coming off an ACL. But I was not impressed. I was tremendously impressed with this young guy in the fall camp that I got to watch him. I just think he's kind of an in between, a little bit bigger for sure than Edwards and not as big as Robinson. But man, he's a player and he's a good kid too. I've talked to him several times. I always take up for these kids. I haven't met any real bad kids over there, but he's very personable, quiet, but we talk about Texas and everything because he's from Texas, and I told him I had a little knowledge of that, having been at Oklahoma. I like the guy. I really do. I think he'll help us.
Another kind of running back related question was from Derek Tillman. Says, Coach, do you think we'll see the toss sweep come back more since Bobo is back in offensive coordinator?
I don't see the toss probably, but we ran the quick pitch a lot, which is similar to that. But to run a pure toss sweep, you got to have a lead blocker in the backfield, and that means you're under center a lot.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's a good play. It's been the backbone of a lot of teams, but just with the way the spread offense is and the quarterback back in the either in the gun or in the pistol, you don't see as much. You see the quick pitch where you just pitch it out to the side. But I would say limited, maybe on the goal line.
Because Georgia doesn't have a natural fullback for that. But, Coach, and watching Mike Bobo for a while and even in his recent stops, could we see more of the H-back where the tight end just lines up in a slightly different spot?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how you call it. You call him an H-back or a Y or a U, whatever you want to call the guy. But Brock Bowers is the perfect hybrid player for any team in the country, pro or college. So he can do that. Delp can do it. Lucky, this guy coming in, Lucky and Sperlin. I mean, we got good tight ends. And I like the fact that when you're bringing in a new quarterback and trying to make things easier for them, when you can have a balanced look with, two tights on, balance up the front, it's easier to call plays as far as at the line of scrimmage for a quarterback as compared to the teams that run over shifts to your strengths when you're not in too tight. So we'll have a very effective running game and play action game.
WR Fence Company says, Radi, you were getting all the easy questions and you still missed them. I completely agree.
Hey, that same person bet $540 on Carson Beck to win the Heisman.
Ooh, I don't like your chances there, buddy. And it's not anything against Carson, but I mean, all right, I'll put it this way: with Heisman odds, whoever Georgia's starting quarterback is going to be in the mix at the end.
Could be, but what's Bauer's odds?
Oh, that's a good one.
I just don't know if they'll give it to
zero because he's a tight end. They won't give it to one.
I mean, they finally gave it to a receiver a few years ago, but it's a quarterback award for the most part.
Yeah,
we know all those quarterbacks are overrated.
I could see Bowers breaking about every record there's going to be next year.
Can he play quarterback?
Yeah, he play running back.
Yeah, he does play running back. I'd love to see him on that zone read. All right, let's get to the dog vent questions real quick.
Well, why don't we go ahead and get in a word about your pie? Because if you're trying to make a good read, their triple threat kind of makes you make a decision right now if you want the barbecue chicken or if you want the Nashville hot chicken or the buffalo chicken. And would you rate that transition for me, Roddy? Because I felt pretty good about it.
That was smooth.
Thank you.
We might actually have to put you on the payroll after that one. That was damn nice. And we actually had somebody hit me up and said they tried the Nashville hot chicken. They liked it. And I'm like, it's good. I still, though, man, I got to go with my Southern Heat. I love the Nashville hot chicken. I'm a big Nashville hot chicken fan. I actually had that at a restaurant recently in the weekend off, and I was with the missus, and they had a hot chicken sandwich. It was good, but it made me think about the pizza. But, man, sometimes you just can't get away from the classics. And the last time I went to – and today's double points day at Your Pie, I'm thinking that Southern Heat would go down just right because that's what I had last time. And it was so good. And I'm like, I've been eating this Southern Heat for years now, and I still love it every time. So hit up Your Pie when you get the chance. I'm sure there's something on their menu. And again, you can cater whatever you want completely to how you like it. But some of their traditional ones, the ones they've been making since day one, the Ishka, the Nat, you'll love them.
I'd say about half the time that we have a watch along show, that's what we have as our pregame meal. At our production studio where we do our watch along show.
And it is always a hit.
One thing that you can, really, to me, the ability to get exactly what you want on your own pizza is unmarveled. I mean, you just got, you get around a bunch of people. Well, what are we going to order? Where are we going to order? Hey, I don't like this. Just get what you want, man. You got your own pizza and take it to go.
Yeah, somebody, I don't want pineapple on mine. I want anchovies. My dad loved anchovies, man. I'm like, and if he'd get them on a pizza, that was Dad's pizza. Nobody else would eat it. Like, Dad, you got an extra large with anchovies. Well, that's Dad's. Speaking of getting a custom things done exactly the way you want it, check out our friends at Dead Soxy. They have a great sale going on right now. It's their BOGO sale, buy one, get one off. It's 50% off bundle. So if there's a 4-pack or an 8-pack or something like that, if you buy one bundle, you get the next bundle at 50% off. And if you're just doing single pairs, you can buy one pair, get the second one free. So, whichever one's the cheaper pair, you get that one free. Hit up Dead Socks. You'll see there's a promo code that says Cozy Socks. Use promo code UGASports. That lets them know that we recommended them and lets them know that being a sponsor of UGASports is a good thing. So hit up Dead Soxy. Now's the best time to do it because you get that buy one, get one free. So it's like 50% off. So hit up deadsoxy.com when you get the chance.
The rave reviews are in for Know Your Dogs, our new game show. On the vent already, BHodge0702 says, Dayne's game show was great. It made me chuckle a couple of times. Is Roddy even affiliated with UGA since he went 0 for 3? All of the questions were so easy and he didn't get a single one. completely understand. I agree, and we'll keep going at it if people.
I'm gonna get out my media guide and start boning up for next week.
OU Herschel Walker, a question for Coach Donnan, says, Coach, do you expect Everett to start at corner opposite Lassiter, or do you expect Nyland Green or Humphrey or Washington or any of the freshmen to come in and get the nod?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah, I think Everett certainly showed his strengths when he got the opportunity. Toward the end of the year, he's getting to play a little more, particularly in the runaway games. But the fact that he was able to come in the spring and practice and learn the techniques and get in a lot of good special teams work too, I'd say he's an odds-on favorite starting out. But they're going to give Green a lot of shots too. I mean, Green hurt his hamstring, put him behind the 8 ball a little bit. But and then some of these freshmen that they got coming in, they're pretty high on him. Of course, Humphreys has got great speed. You just got to continue to work in the weight room. So I think the position, even though we lose Ringo, I think position athletically, we got some really good guys coming along. And then, of course, we got Bullard and Tyke Smith back at star. And then we got this Jonell, what's his name? Aguero's coming in, can play safety. And as I mentioned, Dan Jackson's back to go with Malachi Stark. So, and then they say this A.J. Harris is the real deal too. So just exciting, really. When you look at our linebackers and then our core secondary, I think really perimeter-wise, we're going to be really good.
It was this time last year that we were talking about, well, Kamari Lassiter is a guy that you need to keep your eyes on competing for that position. And I guess early on he got picked on a little bit, but he was rock solid by the end of the season. He really stepped up.
To me, he solidified a lot of things that could have been bad for our secondary with all the issues we had with the ball in the air. The guy is just works his butt off all the time, plays as good as he can play, and just very dependable. And you saw Ringo got a lot of chances. People went after him, but he had a good defense rate too. When you look at how many times he actually had the ball thrown on him and how many he defended, but I really like Lassiter's just his makeup. He just reminds you of tough ass corner. That's what I mean. That's the only way you can say it. He's tough.
Here's a question from Pierce Outlaw. Does the strength, nutrition, and conditioning staff give players individual regimens for the offseason to address perceived weaknesses in addition to their team regimens? And do coaches assign workouts or study partners by positions or need?
Well, for sure, the nutritionist, based on the guy, need to gain bulk, need to gain lose weight, need to get a better idea of how to take care of your protein needs, whatever it means. Collier just does a tremendous job with that, and she's got a good feel for these kids. She walks around and they kind of mother hen type deal. They just believe in what she tells them and her staff. And then the position coaches will talk to the strength coaches about, hey, this guy probably needs a little more flexibility. This guy, like in Radi mentioned, Robinson probably could use that as compared to bulk. And it's all your workouts are structured by your individual needs as far as a strength program. As far as the agility team does agility drills together, and some guys do a little bit more of certain drills than others. There's no need for a D lineman to be doing some of these DB type drills that they do, and they move by stations. But as far as who they work with, peer pressure is good. To see another guy and the way he works and the way his motor goes, you're in there by position. And the O-line, one thing that Kirby has here is competition. Somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to lose every drill. So the O-line's going against the D-line all the time in these drills, and linebackers against running backs, and tight ends against stars, and corners against wideouts, and quarterbacks just going against each other more than anything. But good competition out there.
I've heard a lot of coaches say that when your most talented player is also your hardest worker, it just makes your job so much easier.
Oh, Yeah, that's for sure. But usually there's not many really good players that slack off. I mean, the thing you got to understand, and I always told our players this when they were talking about working hard and doing this stuff, and I said, well, I'm sure Florida and Tennessee are taking off today. They're not doing it. You got to gauge yourself not only on your own team, but what's these who you got to beat, what do you got to do, and I just can't think of any coach I've ever been around that is more geared into the specifics of what his team needs to do to get better than Kirby Smart. And he's got just a really good feel for how hard to work them and when to cut back a little bit. Very, very good. A lot of coaches don't have that.
Well, this is a good segue to the question from 83 WR Dog. How does Kirby maintain any work-life balance? The job seems to be 24/7.
Well, we talked about this on during COVID. I think it was good for coaches to realize there's other things you can do besides be on the road and all that. You spend more time with your family and go to your kids' events and things like that. And I think that was brought out to the coaches and they were able to see it. And consequently, the schedule changed for instance, we brought this up on the show before. Our coaches used to work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night. And Kirby came up with the idea that, hey, after Wednesday's practice, you go home. Wednesday and Thursday night, go home, and that's one more day. And it's worked out good the last 2 years. I mean, you can't find anything wrong with it. The other thing is, like in the off season here, which this is the off season really before spring practice, our coaches get a little time off to go on a little trip or whatever you want to do, and then they have spring break. So they actually have about a week and a half or maybe 10 days that they're going to have based on half of them are on the road or on vacation and half of them are here with the players, and then the other half come back. But
does he ever take a long vacation? We know Kirby will take he's taking a weekend somewhere here with the missus, stuff like that. Did they ever, I mean, if he want to do like a 2-week deal, has he ever been gone 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
I don't think you can stay away from your team. There's too many things to go on. But
Okay.
I know last year he and some of his guys that he played with got a place down at some beach, and they went down there to all their families together. So, but I think what a coach does on his private time's his own, and whatever they want to do it. But the thing that I know Kirby, it's got one son's playing on the Athens Academy tennis team, and his daughter's on the soccer team, and he's got Andrews playing spring travel ball, baseball, and also running track. So I'm sure he'll catch some of those.
And I think it's just a lifestyle too. Like when I've been around Buttsmere or when I've covered games, like Kirby's family's around. Like they're a piece of it all. It's not like he just leaves them and never sees them. Like, yeah, there are some recruiting times he has to be away, but he incorporates them well.
Yeah, another thing they did a couple years ago instituted was on the, let's just say we got a game on Saturday and you have recruits in and everything. Then you go back Sunday, you're going on the same routine. You're getting ready for the next game. They have what they call family night on Sunday where all the families come over to the facility and they'll have a catered meal between, say, 4:30 and 6, and all the coaches can sit around with their family and everybody's family together, and the kids get out there and play football and all that. But it's just a good little break there, before you get back into you got that hammer down getting ready for the next game. But I thought that was a really good idea.
Question from KCKD. This is a quarterback question. It says, Coach, is there any way to know if you can feel good about a quarterback handling the quote moment before it happens? The reason he asks is because Carson Beck obviously got the chance to be a starter previously. That practice didn't go very well, but he looked much better last year when he was a backup. Still, can you ever determine that when that moment arises that the quarterback is the guy that they're ready for it?
Yeah, I think a little bit of that is, how they're going to react in a game for sure. But again, getting back to the hammer and tong practices we have going against one in the spring, I mean, you're either going to be able to deliver or you're not, because you're going against some really good people. You just can't sugarcoat it and go ones against threes. Hey, boy, you look good and everything, but these guys can't even line up, you know. Now, occasionally you throw out a little bit of a little dessert to a quarterback, and you'll go out there and tell the defense, hey, I just want you to play one or two coverages and not a lot of blitzing, because we got to establish our quarterback's confidence. So if he's struggling a little bit, instead of just going out there the first day and have a corner blitz on the first play, I mean,
I didn't like this kid when we were recruiting him. Send him.
Really, I had that happen one time in Missouri when we were playing in spring practice, and we had a good quarterback who just graduated. We had this freshman, first play of the spring, first scrimmage, they bring the corner blitz.
Cold-blooded.
I just went running over. I said, boy, I'm sure glad y'all got that in. I'm really going to help you. Don't worry about my quarterback.
Assholes.
Radi, did you
do, though, if they are making it hard on one side or the other because of what they're doing on a scheme wise, he'll just say, hey, cut that out. I want to see more vanilla. Because it's a lot easier to evaluate a guy just drill wise and player wise if he's not getting beat by a scheme. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I also want to mention, though, if you're trying to make it easy on your quarterback and you're trying to make it easy, if you're the quarterback in your kitchen, you're trying to make it easy on yourself. You're trying to make it easy on the misses. You're trying to make it easy on the kids. Hit up our friends at Prime Shrimp. It's the easiest thing in the world. You buy this great shrimp. You have all these different things you can do with it. It comes to you frozen. You take it out of your freezer. You drop it in the boiling water. 6 minutes, it's done. Let the bag cool a little bit, cut it open, and then you drop it into your mac and cheese. You drop it into your grits. You drop it into check out. They got some great ideas over there. You put it with your steak so you can have some surf and turf. Drop it straight into a Caesar salad, or you get those charcuterie boards.
Charcuterie.
That's I can't say it, so.
And you still tried.
I still tried. I'm going to get it one of these days. I could say prosciutto forever. Still can't. If you want shrimp
Wait,
scampi.
were you going prosciutto or prosecco? Those are two different things.
Well, both of them.
Okay.
I'll put them together on my Italian sandwich. Look, man, if I can't say it, it's okay, because they take care of all the hard work for me. So our friends at Prime Shrimp, use promo code UGASports to get 20% off your first order. So primeshrimp.com, you'll absolutely love it. They have a bunch of different flavored ones, and they have some that are not flavored, but the flavored shrimp is phenomenal. And I'm just kind of scrolling through. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you're not seeing all the great ideas here. If you go to primeshrimp.com and click on recipes, they show you some just great ideas for it. And there's page after page after page of great recipe ideas for Prime Shrimp. So
Coach said that sometimes you need your offense to be a bit more vanilla. You also sometimes need your beer to be a bit more vanilla.
Oh, my.
Academia Brewing Company. Hint of vanilla in some of their beers out there, Roddy.
They do. They have some really fantastic beers, and they have some good Fat Tuesday Mardi Gras meals out there. So anytime the opportunity arises for them to be able to make a unique food or a unique beer, they are going to jump on it. They've done some great stuff on Valentine's Day, and they've the New Year's Day was some great stuff. But right now they have some Mardi Gras themed food out there. You need to try that out when you get the chance. Let's try to see what did they have recently. They had the 3 Shades of Black. That's their new beer they got going on out there. And try the jambalaya with the I'm looking at the jambalaya. It's got everything in it, and they even have some pickled okra on the side there, to make sure it's going to be really good for you. Of course, their beer and biscuit brunch is always big, so hit them up. They got hurricanes out there right now. So again, if there's any way to celebrate, the folks at Academia Brew Company will do so.
Roddy, I know you had some questions on your end. Did we want to touch those as we wrap the show?
Yeah, I don't want to get to one in the comment section first that came up right there at the top. Let me scroll back. This is from Ryan Casper, coach. He says, I'm more concerned about situational play calling. 4th down and 3 yards to go, and you have to have it. How confident are you in Mike Bobo's play calling?
100%.
I figured what you say, but we go ahead.
And here's why I say it. I mean, none of you, the people that are watching, ever been in a meeting room with him like I was for 2.5 years, drilling them on how to check plays off, doing all that. One of the smartest guys I've ever had at quarterback, could, do so many things. Well, he went ahead and coached under Coach Rick, who was a really good quarterback coach. Had two Heisman Trophy winners for him, but played for him at FSU. And it doesn't have anything to be with the homer or anything, but a lot of these play calls are based on the situational about what won for you and what got you beat the year before, and you practice those, you work on them. You just don't come up with some magical call. It's all based on what you thought going in, and then as the game progresses, you cut down what you're going to run based on what's worked and what hadn't, and then you go with that. But it's definitely a good question from him about that, because it's something you got to be able to do when the band's playing. You got to make the right call. There's nothing worse than to put your players in a position where they don't have a chance to be successful. So, but I would say this to people that are worried about Mike Bobo. Were you worried about – this is a question I'd like to everybody. Were you worried about last year when Dan – first of all, were you worried 3 years ago, when Mel Tucker left and Dan Lanning took over the play calling for the defense, had never called defenses before, but he called them for a team that won the national championship in his second year. And then last year, when Dan Lanning left, you turned over the play calling to a guy who never had even been a full-time position coach until 7 years ago. And then he called the defenses all year long. And now people are worried about a guy that has over 20 years of play calling experience, saying, whether is he going to be able to do it or not? His resume is so much stronger than anybody we've ever had here taking over a job, and what he's going to be able to do. High school football quarterback, junior high quarterback. He's done all that. But the things that I like about Mike Bobo as a coach is the ability to teach. When you have a camp and you got a bunch of kids there, and they're not all-star players, but they're kids trying to learn the nuances and the fundamentals of playing quarterback, Mike Bobo is going to spend the time and teach them that. He's going to show them what it's like to take the snap, to do the steps, where to put the ball, how to handle the ball, what to do with your grip. The same thing's true when he goes into high school throughout the state of Georgia. He's got instant name recognition, going back to his dad being an outstanding coach here, the fact that he played in South Georgia, and he just built a fence around Georgia as a recruiter in his years here. So I just feel like, ask yourself some of these questions. That were you asking those questions about when we made this call for defensive coaches? I don't think you were. I mean, those are just as important in the calls, and the same guy that decided to give that responsibility to those coaches has done that with Mike Bobo. So,
well, Coach, I think the voice of the fan would say not as worried about defense, because I know Kirby Smart handles a lot of that too. And then on offense, there just tends to be more worry because Kirby Smart's not an offensive coach by trade necessarily, though he was a running backs coach.
He's the head coach. Everything in this program, from what kind of pants they're going to wear at practice, position meetings, what they're going to have for pregame meal, what time they're going to leave, everything goes through Kirby Smart. So just like the play calls, if he doesn't like something that Munkin's calling or Cheney's calling or Coley's calling, he's going to tell him to change it. So
I made this point the other day, Coach. People kind of laugh, and we'll put this on the board throughout the year. It's usually a couple weeks before the first game. We're like, the Georgia football team went to the movies today. They went to see this movie, and we'll tell them throughout the year what movies we're going to see. And we're like, do you realize that during fall camp and sometimes in spring camp, they practice going to the movies? Kirby Smart has them practice. They basically go to a movie to say, this is what we're going to do on Friday nights in the fall when we're, at a different city or whatever.
Get used to the routine, yeah.
Yeah, to get them used to exactly. Here's the buses you get on. Here's how you comport yourself when you're inside this thing. Here's what we're going to do when it's after. When we go back to the hotel, here's going to be the snack that we're going to have.
And nobody.
I mean, if the man practices how you go to the damn movies, he's going to be very dialed into who he picks as his OC. And I'm not defending Bobo.
I think people, and I can see why they say, hey, you're biased, and maybe I am, but I do have a opinion based on what I've seen. But I do feel like this, and there's nobody that's been more of a Todd Monken proponent than me from the first day he came, because I told Radi about how I liked the way he coached at Southern Miss. I went into meetings with him when I was doing TV and all that. But if you just look at our team, our top 15 players last year, you tell me one of them that's not going to be drafted.
All right, then.
And you look at the teams we played against, except for Ohio State, was anybody even close to us personnel-wise? So, the things are in your favor here at Georgia calling plays. Your personnel is good, and, you should get a lot of credit for it. And I say that, but I don't think Mike should get a lot of blame. He certainly should get some for South Carolina, but who knows what was going on with their O-line, with their defense, all that. And then just had a situation with Harsin where it just didn't work out. But, he was within 5 seconds of beating Alabama at Auburn that one year when he was over there. So,
Coach, you're telling me that I would be a better play caller if I have Brock Bowers out there. That's what you're telling me.
Brock Bowers, every one of those old linemen, all those backs, Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett probably calls 25% of the plays at the line of scrimmage, maybe more.
That's going to be that.
Well, that's through the coaching that he got from Monken and also Buster Faulkner, who did a great job here. So I think it's good. It's typical of anybody to be a little bit up in the air, no question, to worry about stuff. But of all the things that I'm going to worry about our team next year, offensive coordinator, and if you had 100 things on the list, would be about the 99th one that I would worry about the most. I maybe could find one thing that I would worry about less than that. I don't know how to say it, but we're going to be really good, and we're going to be fortified in recruiting with Mike. The other thing that you got to remember who your boss is. I mean, not every coach can come in here and be hunky-dory with Kirby. They don't know him. He's known Kirby since they were in junior high, and they'll get after each other, but they respect him. And you gotta have that respect. You got to have a coach who'll come back at you, and Mike will come back at Kirby, and that's good. Certainly, you got to respect him, and Monken would do that too. But the head coach is the head coach, and he's the one that's right.
All right. Last question, Coach. This is from Carson. Carson says, "How will we see more of Arian Smith with the ball?"
Yes, I can say it unequivocally. I think Arian Smith was viewed as a guy that had been hurt and he didn't get to practice a lot and do all that. I think there'll be a place in the game plan a little bit more prevalent in my mind with and the reason is Mike worked with the receivers and the tight ends last year, and he saw a lot of the stuff that he did in practice. So I think you'll see more Arian Smith.
Oh, love it. All right, folks, that's all That's all the time we have for this week's show. We appreciate you tuning in. Dane's got me confused, but the one thing I will remember is that our show is normally Tuesdays at noon. So tune in next Tuesday at noon. We'll have the UGASports live show for you. We appreciate everybody's questions. They really make the show go by quickly. We went a little long because we try to get as many questions and answers as possible. So prep your questions for next week. We'll get to them. We'll hopefully not have as rigged a trivia game.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. And we will take on another position group next week in depth like we did with the running backs. That was a great segment. I hope everyone.
We went to the trivia game because everybody didn't like my joke last week. So
everyone loved your joke last week.
Yeah, I got good feedback on the joke. I
Yeah.
hope my trivia game does as well as that joke did.
Okay, but I can always come in with some more jokes. But
all right, we'll set up some more jokes for next week, folks. Y'all be sure to tune in next Tuesday noon. We'll see you then.